You got me on there? We're getting ready to start. We've got people on YouTube that are zooming in, so we're going to try to start pretty close on time. I know it's a couple minutes after, so people, as you're zooming in, hopefully you're not having any problems. This is our first hybrid meeting, so this will be interesting. I think I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. My name is Mark Broman. I'm the Executive Director of Wachiska Audubon. I've been on board for almost a year. Next month it'll be 1 year exact. So I've been a member for 25 years, but I've just been the Executive Director for 11 months, so I'm glad to be here. I want to welcome you all to our October meeting. Again, this is going to be also on YouTube, so it's being Zoomed as well as electronically, as well as being here live. So I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Hopefully the rest of our meetings will be either hybrid or in person. I know the next meeting in November and December we're planning. We're hoping to be able to have our annual potluck at December and have a business meeting next month with elections and things like that. Let's see, Wachiska is an independent chapter of the National Audubon Society with a geographical area covering 17 counties in southeast Nebraska. And you can follow us on our website and also on our Facebook page. I wanted to mention we have one more seed collection opportunity next Saturday, October 22nd, down at Deacon Prairie at 9 a.m. The last second Saturday seed collection was last Saturday. We had these second Saturday seed collections during the summer and early fall. But Beth Koffel was gracious enough to agree to do one more collection this coming Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, the 22nd. Seeds will be collected and taken to Prairie Legacy, where they'll be used for planting prairies all over southeast Nebraska. Also, Kay Cotis is going to be collecting seeds on her prairie near Western, which is about an hour southwest of here, and she's going to be collecting for the next month. And so if anyone really would like to collect, let me know or Kay, and she said she'd be glad to have volunteers. But the 22nd, 9 o'clock, Deacon is our last opportunity with one of our prairies. At this time, I'll ask our president, Teresa Pella, if she has any announcements to make. Teresa? No, you want to just step up here maybe if that's not working? Yeah, just step. That would be easier. Okay.
Hello to everyone in the room and everyone virtual. Thank you for joining us tonight. The only announcement I have is our board will be meeting next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Zoom. As usual, those are all open to anyone who wants to sit in and hear what your board is doing. And as Mark indicated, next month's general meeting, which I think is the 10th, anyway, is really going to be a very, very important one, and we encourage all members to join because not only are you going to be electing your officers and directors of the board for next year, but you're also going to be asked to approve some very significant changes that the board has seriously worked diligently to update. And we're going to need membership approval on those. So next month is going to be a very important membership meeting. Thank you.
Okay. And Arliss, I'll have you come up and make a couple quick announcements. Arliss is our office manager. I know she was out signing people up, and so she's on her way up to give a couple quick announcements about the calendars and the birdseed orders. So I'll let Arliss come up and mention those two items and anything else that she might have.
Thank you, Mark. Our fall birdseed sale is underway, and orders were supposed to be in by midnight tonight. And if you order online, I think the guy that handles that is pretty much on a 12 o'clock midnight basis. But if you fill out one of these forms and give it to me, I can sneak it in tomorrow. Or if yours is in the mail, today was a postmark deadline. Another thing is the Audubon calendars that we offer every year. Some people really go for these, other people go for the other kind, but they really have a lot of them this year. I think there were 7 new ones, including the engagement calendar, which isn't new, but that's a bestseller. And there's one wall calendar for kids is something new. So if you're interested in Audubon calendars, the deadline on this I think is the 17th, and I have just one colored flyer, but if you stop afterwards and see me, we will write down anything that you want on my order form. And I can tell you that next month in November, we're going to have a field trip. We're starting that again. I'm sorry I can't tell you where it's to. I just got the announcement today. Okay, Pawnee Lake, thank you. And then that will be the Sunday after our November meeting. So it'd be probably the second Sunday, or at least the first Sunday after the second Thursday. So that'll be in the next newsletter, or you can call me at the office, but I'm glad we're getting that going again. I think that's probably what I have. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Arliss. Well, we're going to cut things short tonight. We're at the end. If we've got some bird sightings, we'll bring those up at the end if we have time, and we'll also take questions at the end. But it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker. Tonight we have Brooke Talbot with the Platte Basin Time-Lapse Project. Brooke grew up in Omaha and has attended and has an undergraduate and master's degree from the University of Nebraska. Brooke's presentation tonight is about Nebraska Wetlands Project, increasing the public's awareness and the importance and value of wetlands in Nebraska. And again, we'll take questions at the end, and also we'll have some coffee and water out there if people want to visit. You know, I know it's been a long time since we've seen each other. So with that, Brooke, I'll let you take it away.
Although I usually talk somewhat loud because I spent several years being a camp counselor, so I have a camp counselor voice. So now that my notes are plugged in, I'll say hello, everyone, and good evening. Glad you could be here tonight, and I appreciate that. And hello to everyone who is online on YouTube. So I wonder if we could dim the lights a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So it's fun to be back in person. I was telling these guys earlier that it's really nice to be able to see everyone and see everyone's reactions versus boxes on Zoom. So tonight, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brooke Talbot, and it's Brook like the water. I was delighted when the publication was titled The Babbling Brook. It was very fitting. Because that is what I do. I like to talk, and I like to show people where we live and where our water comes from. And so I'm a part of the Platte Basin Time-Lapse Project, and I'm a producer. Platte Basin Time-Lapse, or PBT, is a conservation storytelling entity, and we're focused on lifting up voices within our watershed. So today I'm going to talk to you about PBT a little bit, and then the next half of the presentation will be about our most recent project, which is a wetlands project. And so we'll see lots of media from that. So the question that we ask at Platte Basin is, where does our water come from? So here in Lincoln, our water comes from the Platte River, and that's a picture of the Platte River where the water that's coming out of the drinking fountains and probably water that's in your water bottles, if you have a refillable one, is from. And the Platte's legacy is that of a wild braided prairie river. But in the last century, as America grew west, it's been mostly tamed, dammed, and altered. Today, its water is one of the most important bread baskets and agricultural powerhouses in the world. And it provides life for millions of people, plants, and animals across 3 states in the Great Plains region. So here's the Great Plains ecoregion. That grayed out area is the larger region that we're in. And then the one up top here on the right is the Platte River Basin. Now you can see it spans 3 states of Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. So this basin that you see here covers 90,000 square miles across those 3 states. And what we're doing at Platte Basin Time-Lapse is we're watching that water flow through time. And so the different colors on that map are the different parts of the bigger Platte Basin. So you've got the North Platte. If I'm going to start up at the top and work my way like you read a book, you've got the North Platte, South Platte, the Sandhills region, the Central Platte, and the Lower Platte. So all of those dots that came on the map are locations of cameras. And what we do is we have cameras in each of those locations that's watching change happen over time. Some have been running for more than 10 years, and we've accumulated more than 3 million images in our archive. So there's a lot to do where I work. And there's a lot of creativity. And there's a lot of different things that we can make. So this is, some of you may be familiar with this. This is Rose Sanctuary out by Wood River, Nebraska. And this is the picture of our very first camera that we installed back in 2011. I knew of the project at that time, and I've been involved for maybe about, 4 to 6 years now. So what looks to be a sandbar there is actually sandhill cranes. You can see the water in between them. Sandhill crane roost at night. So this camera's been clicking away since 2011, and it's seen a lot. Here's a creative picture of the 4 different seasons blended together. And there you can see the cranes, and there you can see an artist rendering of the same scene of winter, fall, spring, and summer. And here's a time lapse of what it looks like through multiple years. Starting in 2013, February, now we're in April. Now we're in May 2013, now we're in June. So by compressing time with time-lapse photography technology, we can watch as the landscape literally breathes. So this is the heart of our project, is we want people to be able to utilize this technology to look at how the whole river system is changing, and that can help us make decisions based on what we do with geology, hydrology, all those sorts of things. So let's keep going. Maybe. Linda, am I? Oh, there we go. Okay. So now I'm going to show you the 4 seasons out in the Sandhills. This place is called Mixed Slide. I don't know if the clicker is working, Linda. We might. Yeah. If that doesn't work, then we'll have somebody do the clicking. But, are you ready? Ben, do you want to hop back there? I'm gonna ask my husband, Ben, to do the clicking. Okay, go ahead and hit it. Yep. So go ahead and go back for a second. Yep. Go ahead and click it through somewhat quickly. So click, click, click. You guys can see the 4 seasons change through time there. Perfect. So let's go to the next one, Lake Agnes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through our watershed, and we're going to take a walk through it in pictures. So this is our highest camera in the Rocky Mountains, Lake Agnes at 11,000 feet. Go ahead and click it. This is Jack Creek, so melting snow. Yes, Jack Creek, Wyoming. Good, now I don't have to worry about this anymore. Great. Okay, go ahead and click it again. This is out in Wyoming, one of the dam structures that our water goes through. Oh, I don't want to create feedback. Click it. Sunshine Beach at Seminy Dam. The North Loop, one of the waterfalls in Nebraska out in the Sandhills. Lake McConaughey out in western Nebraska. At night, the morning bell. A wet meadow in a riverine wetland along the Platte called Mormon Island in central Nebraska near Wood River. The Elkhorn River. At dawn or dusk, can't tell, but some deer are crossing, which is pretty neat. And this is at the Lead Bridge, the Lead Platte Bridge. That's near Mahoney State Park, pretty close to here. And that's an owl that perched on the camera. So this is the installation of Lake Agnes, and here's a team of people who hiked up there, hiked the route because you can't get there any other way, and installed this camera. And then here's our lowest location, which is at the confluence of the Platte River and the Missouri River on the eastern edge of Nebraska. And this camera was taken out by the flood. And Ethan, remind me of the year. 2019 flood took this camera out, but you can see that they put it up high enough in hopes that it wouldn't, but the river took it anyway. Okay, now here's a little bit of behind the scenes for you. This is how one of these cameras gets built, because there's all this neat, nature photography that these things are capturing. Well, we need engineers to be able to design them and put them together, so. So how many people does it take to put a post in the ground? I suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. And then that's Jeff Dale, who's our main camera technician, installing a camera. Here's what the inside of it looks like. So what happens is our camera technicians basically reprogram the brain of the camera, and they reroute it and tell it to take a picture every hour of every daylight hour of every day. So that's how we've accumulated so many pictures over years. Click it again. Okay, so that gives you a better idea of what Platte Basin is, what we do, and some of the tools that we use to capture that. And there's a whole host of other ways that you can utilize our time-lapse technology and the stuff that it's making, which some of it's a little bit untapped. So we welcome any sort of conversations with people who are interested in that sort of thing. So far, we've focused on art and multimedia, and we're just starting to get into the research side of things as we joined with the School of Natural Resources at the university just recently. So this project has been going on for the last 3 years, the Wetlands of Nebraska project. And this has been in partnership with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, and the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, was the governing entity that provided this. So go ahead and click it. What we're gonna do, I wanna introduce you to the team of people, the core team, I'd say, who are a part of this project. So Mariah Lundgren, Grant Reiner, myself, Ethan, who's sitting back here, and Dakota. We've all worked on this for the past 2 to 3 years. And then Ted LaGrange with Nebraska Game and Parks has been directing this project. And we've also worked very closely with the founders of Platte Basin Time Lapse, which is Mike Forsberg and Michael Farrell. So here's a glimpse of all of the different areas that we've been and sort of subjects that we've encountered when we're exploring the wetlands of Nebraska. And to give you an idea of what we're trying to accomplish with this project is we wanted to capture the different parts of wetlands of Nebraska, and that's animals, people, and all the stories within them. And then we wanted to educate people about how important wetlands really are. Oh, am I creating a little feedback there? Okay, go ahead and click it. Now here's all of the different people that we've interacted with, and this is just a small glimpse of it. But these are people all across the state of Nebraska that are experts in the wetlands and the different types that I'll talk about here in a minute. And we've interviewed each of these subjects, since we're going to be we're making films for this project. So go and click it again. So here's a map that shows you the different areas of wetlands that we've categorized into these. That's how we broke up the project. So we've got sandhills, riverine, saline, and playa. And so what I'll do is I'm just going to walk you through these different wetland types and give you a glimpse. And like I say, with this project, we're making films and a publication and online material. So go ahead and do that again. So we're going to lead with Ethan, who did the playa wetlands. We'll click it again. And so playa wetlands are in the midst of agricultural areas. So they're, as Ethan likes to say, they're hotspots of biodiversity within this agricultural landscape. And so it's really amazing the amount of wildlife that rely on these little pockets of water that are in the midst of production. And so what we'll do next is here's a little video that gives you an idea of what playa wetlands are. Click it again. So if you are feeling very inspired about playa wetlands now, that's the introduction to the short film that will be coming out at the end of this month. So keep going. So if you've never heard of playa wetlands, they're a part of the rainwater basin here in Nebraska. And birding is a really fun activity that you can go out and do. And so just to represent some of the bird species that are out there, go ahead and click it, and then there's a trace of an avian friend. Click it again. So you guys are all birders, right? You want to shout out the species? I'm going to get some audience participation here, right?
Right there. Oh, this one.
Wood duck?
Yeah.
Oh, this one here.
Yeah. As the pictures come out, why don't you guys ID them? Wouldn't that be fun, right? Some of you might be feeling like, oh no.
What was the feather?
Oh, the feather. Oh, well, go back. I don't know if I could tell you, but I like that we're interested. Go ahead and go to the next. Oh.
I don't know.
Okay, so I heard this one. You got.
Yeah, wood duck.
Okay, go to the next one.
Oh, pintail.
Go to. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, black-necked. So you linger on it a little bit. You linger on them a little bit. Yeah. Black-necked still. Yep. Okay. Some sort of shorebird.
Yeah.
Which yeah. Which we were discussing this earlier. We did get it ID'd, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
So Elise sandpiper. Yep. So a trio of dowitchers is what we'll say. I understand there's several dowitcher species, but we haven't been able to confirm this one exactly. Go ahead. Good. And here's just, now this is a stage setter. This is just to show you how close, these places are to urban development, or in this case, wind power, or agricultural areas, which is really fascinating. And I think it's really positive that there's so much wildlife in these places. So, go ahead. Yeah, so here's another stage setter to kind of show you how close these places are. Okay, now let's move on to riverine wetlands. And just like before, we're going to give you a teaser. So, go. Go back one. So riverine wetlands are pretty much any sort of, they're associated with the rivers of Nebraska, and it's the backwater sloughs or the flows of the river that will move into the adjacent areas and create these wet meadows or these wetlands. So riverine wetlands are very important for healthy fish populations because those fish need to go into those wet meadows and then go back into the river so that they can, spend time there, get the food that they need and breed and then go back downstreams or upstream. So go ahead and play. No sound on this one. Let me pause it for a second. I don't know. Go ahead and play it just with pictures. Yeah, go ahead and just play it. Move the cursor away from yeah. So there's some elk crossing. So Loop Rivers, let's see, I don't know if we can, there's a muskrat, there's Smith Falls at Niobrara State Park, there's I gotta go faster. Oh, there's a little bit of noise. There's a snail. The brook narration. Guess we've got that. And then, now that's along the Niobrara River. There's the water returning on the Platte. There's a river otter, northern river otter. Here's a game camera footage and some sort of insect. And this is not prairie, actually. Did you catch that one? That's a Wachiska property. Planarian. There's, underwater photography done by Grant. More sandhill cranes. East Truss, I think. I cannot talk that fast. I might be a babbling brook, but I don't think I can talk that fast. Riverine wetlands. You'll want to watch the film so you can hear the music. Great. Thanks for being adaptable, everyone. Okay. So that flashed across the screen for a moment, and wanted to include this because this is a picture that Ethan made of Knott Prairie, which is a Wachiska Audubon property along the Central Platte, or Lower Platte. So go ahead and click again. This is a photograph that I made of a cedron up on the upper Missouri, at the confluence of the Missouri and the Niobrara. This is at a fish hatchery out in western Nebraska. Which is kind of cool, is the fish fry. So something that Grant has included in this riverine wetlands film that's really important and often overlooked is the story of mussels. So there's a lot of native mussels here in Nebraska, and they're really important for water quality because they filter out, all sorts of things. And there's not a lot of research that's been done on them, so we're still learning. I got to be a part of a release of mussels that they grew in the fish hatchery, and it was really neat. Click it again. And so this is a pocketbook, which is a species of mussel. And what it's doing is on that right side, doesn't that kind of look like a fish of sorts? So that's called its lure. And this is when it's ready to breed. There's a sac just hidden underneath that thing that looks like a fish. And what it wants is a fish to come up and bite that sac, and it will release the eggs, which is called glaucidia. And so the eggs will be released by a fish coming and biting it. And then those eggs, or the glaucidia, will attach to the fins of the fish that just bit it, and it will grow on the fins. And then when it gets big enough, they'll fall off. And when they fall off, that's their life there where they fall off in the river. Interesting fact about these guys is for their entire life, which can be 40 to 50 years, they will only move within about a 2-foot radius. So can you imagine? That's it. Click again. So this was an opportunity to teach these children about the Platte River. So they're here on the Platte River, seining or netting, I'm not sure, but they're using nets and they're catching fish, and it was really, really fun. I wasn't a part of it, but they got to learn a lot. So that's another part of the story, is we're not just looking at the mussels, we're also looking at the people and hopefully connecting the people with the lessons of the animals. So go ahead, click again. Okay, so let's move to sandhill and alkaline wetlands. And so Mariah Lundgren is the producer on that, and she spearheaded this film. And so you can see there the area of sandhill wetlands, and you can see all those blue dots are all the different lakes that are up in the sandhills. Sandhills, let's go click to the next one. So here's a picture of sandhill wetlands. This is a drone photograph. And they're really, really beautiful spots, and they're really remote because it's right in the middle of ranching country. And so the important thing, I guess the one thing about sandhill wetlands is that what you see there, that's all water from the aquifer that's bubbling up and pushing up to the surface from the Ogallala aquifer, which is underground. So let's give you a glimpse of sandhills. So go click that. Hopefully the sound works on this one. Click. Yeah, good. Okay, there's your teaser on sandhills. So one of the parts of sandhills that is interesting is that water is coming from the Ogallala aquifer, which is underground, and it's has so much pressure it's pushing to the surface. Well, here is a picture of a fen, and those round areas are where that water is just bubbling up. Click. Here's one of the characters in the story, Ashley, who is with her dad there. And what they're doing is they're looking for Blanding's turtles. And if you haven't heard of Blanding's turtles, they're an endangered species here in Nebraska. And so they're doing research on them. And Blanding's turtles are one of her just absolute favorite species. They're very charismatic. And it looks like they just have a big old smile on their face, doesn't it? They're beautiful little creatures. Click again. And I mean, if I'm having a bad day, I'll look at that photo. Because come on, how can you not? So they're an indicator species, and so if you're an indicator species, that means that you're indicating that the wetland areas are very healthy. So this is a good thing. So there's another shot to give you an idea of where they're at. Another character in the Sandhill stories is the Schweitzer family. Here you can see the lineup. The Schweitzers live out by the Calamus Reservoir, and they also run the Calamus outfitting company or deal. And if you've never heard of that, the Calamus outfitters, they'll send paddlers and tubers down the river, the Loop River specifically. And so there are ranchers out there, and ranchers are really important for the health of these wetland ecosystems, because Yeah, you need the water to be able to have healthy grass. And if you have healthy wetlands and you have healthy grass, and you have healthy cattle. And then we have great dinners here back home in Lincoln, if you are a steak person. So here's some pictures of the Schweitzers, and they're a main character in the story. And who doesn't like a good old July picture to round out the summer and the strange warm weather we've been having, but it's cooled off today. So fire is a really important tool that land managers use to keep the grasslands and the wetlands healthy out there. The cool thing about the sandhills is you can do these controlled fires on a grand scale, which makes for crazy scenes like this, which this was a training exercise that was done out there. So managing grasslands and wetlands with fire is also a big part of this story. So let's move into the eastern saline wetlands, which actually you're seeing two different wetland types on this map. We grouped them. So the ones out west are the alkaline wetlands, which are different. The ones here in the east are the eastern saline wetlands. So really you just need to pay attention to that right side of the map. So that's me, and I was at the helm of the saline wetland effort, and it is quite the team effort because we all live here in Lincoln. So here's a glimpse of the trailer for that. So that wasn't snow, that was all salt, right? It's a saltwort plant, endangered. So if you've never heard of saline wetlands, they're right here all around Lincoln. They are a really rare landscape, geologically unique. They're only found here in Lincoln and parts of Kansas. So here's a glimpse of a saltwort colony, which that's plants there, saltwort. It's a state endangered species. It does grow on the coast, and some people call it pickleweed. And you can actually eat it. You can put it on your salad if you would like. But if you do that, you might get ticketed because it is state endangered. So go ahead. So right here in Lincoln, they're really accessible. And one of the reasons Lincoln is here is because of the saline wetlands. So the reason I'm showing you a picture of the Capitol is if you were to go all the way up to the dome and look out where the sower is, you would see this. This would be your view of downtown Lincoln and Capitol Beach, which is a lake here. And that's pretty much the original area that was called the Great Salt Basin. And when I say original area, that's where people were gathering when they figured out that there was salt here. And so they valued that. Go to the next one. So this is a photograph that I took, and it shows you how close these places are just to our back doors. So it gets me really excited because it's a cool place to explore and teach people about. And they're 10 minutes, 15 minutes away. So there's the deer tracks in the salt. So those are all salt deposits. And that's coming up, it's getting pushed up from beneath the earth. And so all that salt that you're seeing is millions of years old. and it's from when Nebraska was a seaway, that would be a whole nother talk, so I won't go into that. There's an even closer picture of salt. Here's some of the saline wetland vegetation that likes to grow around salt. That's the Salt Creek tiger beetle. You saw the two running away in the video? Yep, so there's a singular one, and those are endangered, and they only live here in Lincoln. And I think their scientific name, probably shouldn't say this, I'll probably get it wrong, but it has Lincoln in the name. Cincadella lincolnana, I believe is how you say it. Close enough. So the saline wetland film also includes people, just like all the other ones. And one thing that was incredible is we got to visit with Renee Sansuzi. She is Omaha or Omahu, and she's part of the Omaha tribe. And so she talks to us in the film about how the native people gather salt with feathers off the surface of the earth. Another character in the story is Madeline Cass. And she's an artist here in Lincoln, and she published a book called How Lonely to Be a Marsh. And so she explores what it means to be a rare area like saline wetlands that only exist here. The film also focuses a lot on this place called Marsh Wren Community Wetland. And here you can see a pipe that's going through the landscape. And what land managers did was they figured out there was salt water just below the surface, and they wanted to create a saline wetland, so they pumped it up to the surface, and it worked. And so you can see that salt wort growing there. So over about the span of 3 years, they were able to create a saline wetland from cornfields. Here's an up-close picture of saltwort, which, to give you an idea, if I had saltwort in a plant here on my podium, it'd probably be about this tall. So it's pretty small. Okay, so our last category, which wasn't on the map, are urban wetlands. And we didn't include them on the map because urban wetlands are pretty much everywhere. Well, we call it urban wetlands, but the point we're trying to get across is that wetlands are everywhere. And you probably don't have to go very far to be able to find one. And you could build one in your backyard as well. So go to the next one. Here's a teaser that I helped Dakota cut together. So this shot here is right in town, and that last shot was at Holmes Lake, which I'm sure many of you have been at. So the urban wetlands category gets me about as excited as the saline wetlands because there's overlap, and it's because so many people can get to them so easily. So there's a lot of learning opportunities there to be able to connect to nature. So go to the next one. So you saw this picture already, but it's kind of neat because there's just beauty in common species, even though if they're a little bit of renegades like raccoons, right? As long as you top off your trash cans, you should be okay. So this is a wetland that's here in town that a few friends of ours by the names of Pete and Kelly built. And so they built this pond and wetland in their backyard as a part of their school that they're running called Wild Learning. And so they're characters in this film as well. And so that's one of the children on one of the school days. This film also covers some recreation. And so this guy's name is Tom Lebetz, and he's wind sailing out on Oak Lake, which is right by UNL main campus, the downtown campus. So this is at the Cooper YMCA. And so that square thing there that you see, that's called a floating wetland, a floating treatment wetland. And so what that means is they created this wetland that floats around on these little ponds that are next to parking lots or like in the middle of golf courses. And it's a treatment wetland because it's treating the water. It's filtering out, the pollutants that are running off. And so that's kind of a cool feature that they've been putting those in around Lincoln. So if you drive by and you ever see this floating square thing, it's this floating treatment wetland program, which is a part of the story. So here's what the installation looks like. And so I helped do this, and we put little plants in the plugs and ship it off like a boat and let it do its thing out there. Let it filter the water and grow.
What plant was that?
I don't know. A green plant. So another part of the story is showing people recreating in these areas. And this was at dawn. I think one of the biggest goals of this urban wetland section is to inspire people to get out, and take advantage of these moments that are happening all the time. We just don't always see them. So I think yep. Can you pause it for a sec? Okay, cool. So that wraps up the 5 wetland types. We showed you 4 on the map, and then there was a surprise 5th one. So what I'm going to end with is a trailer that's going to give you an idea of the entire project and some of the interviewees, some of the people. And then we'll close on that, and if there's any questions, so go ahead.
I would describe a wetland as an area that's characterized by water presence. Some wetlands do go dry and then water fills them back up. Specific set of soils, vegetation, and then that hydrology. They're unique, diverse ecosystems found across the globe. Current research project in an urban setting is focused on a floating treatment wetland. A floating treatment wetland is wetland plants placed in some sort of buoyant mat so that the plants can sit on the water surface and their roots hang down below in the water column. These wetlands have the capacity to remove both nitrogen and phosphorus. Plants can be amazing.
A number of years ago, I just thought, I wonder what it'd be like to sit on a muskrat house or stay out in the wetland and let it get dark. After you sit a while, then the marsh comes back to life. I think if you would play that to someone on the streets in Nebraska, they might think it was somewhere really exotic. Instead, it's in a wetland 8 miles out from Lincoln, Nebraska.
This is our 5th year of collecting data on waterfowl migrating through the rainwater basin during spring. What we're trying to find out is the who, where, when, and why. A lot of species depend on the food they get out of the wetlands, which allow for a more diverse diet and really give them those nutrients and calories that they need to continue their migration and to start nesting once they get up north.
Yeah, in our little cabin we have 20 legs, 2 cats, 2 dogs, and us.
A lot of our research takes place in the Central Platte, and we also are fortunate enough to live right here on the river.
We have wet meadows, which have the seasonal wetlands, and you have shallow marshes, which are wetter for a longer time. Depends what kind of wetland you're after. You can find them all over Nebraska.
These are just a record of our earlier project. We started in 2002. An important thing about Blanding's turtles is in most of their range, they're endangered or threatened or gone. Based on the data that we have so far, I think we're going to end up with a whole lot of younger turtles. And we're marking them because, you know, I hope somebody will be able to follow up and find out what these turtles are doing maybe in another 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
I love Blanding's turtles. They're a dream to work with, and I would love to continue working with them and be a Blanding's turtle expert.
So there is a teaser for you all to check out these products that we've been working on. And so in addition to those 5 films, we're going to have a guide to Nebraska wetlands and the conservation needs, which will be a printed publication that will be free for distribution. And we'll have a children's guide about it as well. So with that, I want to thank you for your time with me tonight. And if you want to see more inspiring imagery, you can check out our website at plattbasintimelapse.com. So I think we have some time, Linda possibly, or these guys, for some questions. So if you do, oh yeah, we have someone over here. And I will say, if you do have a question, please wait for the microphone so our friends online can hear you as well.
Testing. Does this work?
I don't know. Right. This is my husband, Ben Eichbritt. And Ben, if you'll come up here for a second. You remember the first part of the presentation when we had the fun camera building video that had the fun music? So Ben recently started working with Jeff Dale, who is our camera engineer and technician. So Ben builds the cameras alongside Jeff now. So, and I think he's our microphone guy tonight.
So I think start over here.
I love Marsh Wren, and I go out there a lot. And last time I went out there, it looked like there was a for sale sign on that farm right next to it when you enter. Is that a risk, a danger to the wetlands?
That's a good question. There is a for sale sign. I guess is that microphone live? It doesn't sound like it. So it's okay. But
Is that turned on?
Testing.
it is now. Yeah. So for our online friends, the question was, well, the first part was that we love Marsh Wren. What's your name?
Barbara.
Barbara loves visiting Marsh Wren. She noticed that there's a for sale sign on an adjacent property. So Barbara's asking if that's a risk to the saline wetland. And I do know with the design of that wetland, the people who engineered that, they accounted for that. So I don't think it's a risk. I think it's an opportunity for people to be close to that. And what's out there is there's a berm, which is like a mound of soil, and so that they built in a filtration system, basically a series of smaller wetlands that will filter out the runoff from that development that they figured would happen before it gets to the main wetland. So I think it will be just fine, yeah. You have a question right here. And if you have any questions for Ben, the cameraman, he's here too.
Well,
So.
I was wondering if, I don't know if this is is on.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is it, I was wondering if this is always a wetland. Is there any time that, for instance, in a drought, that it could disappear? And what all is true about a wetland to keep it as a wetland?
That's a good question. So wetlands are not always wet. They go through periods of having water in them and being somewhat dry or being completely dry. So the plants and the animals are adapted to that. So the area remains a wetland for as long as Ted LaGrange, who's featured in our, film, says it's a wetland because he's in charge of figuring out what wetlands are in the state of Nebraska. But to really answer your question, wetlands have 3 characteristics. It's the hydrology, which is the water movement. If they have hydric plants, which means plants that can grow in water throughout most of the year. And the third H, someone who took wetlands might be able to help me out here.
The hydric soil.
Hydric soils, thank you. Yeah.
Soil that's characteristic of wetlands.
Yeah, so that's what says it's a wetland, and that's what protects it when we have laws that protect them.
So Brooke, this is Teresa. Along
Yeah.
those lines, I always thought playas, part of the definition of a playa was a temporary place. And a playa one year could not be necessarily a playa a different year. Is that right? As opposed to a lot of water bodies that are there and they may go up and down in water line. But I always thought playas were the movable bodies of water.
Yeah, all I know is that wetlands are ephemeral, which means they come and go, but I don't know the answer to playas specifically. I would welcome playa Ethan to answer, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say when it's
give Ethan the mic.
Yeah, when it's dry still, I'd still say it's still a playa, but playas definitely, probably more than any other wetland type in Nebraska, really go through those wet and dry cycles. But yeah, those dry cycles are a really important kind of part of their process because that allows a lot of different plant species to germinate that might like that moist, wet soil, but they can't germinate underwater. So, yeah.
I'm Ned, and I think you might have partially answered my question, but we have an unusually dry period right now, and we've had some changes because of that. For example, bird species are far fewer now, particularly some prairie birds have migrated early or have had fewer chicks than usual. Are there some advantages in wetland regeneration to having a dry period?
When you say wetland regeneration, what are you referring to?
Well, it's a general term to me, but I'm wondering if there are, along with the obvious drawbacks of having the drought and having some of these plants probably are going to die or going to decline because of the drought, are there also some advantages in having a dry period? Are there some things that are going to produce or going to thrive as a result?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak super specifically to that, but I do know that plants in wetland areas are adapted, especially to go through dry and wet periods. Now, like prolonged drought, I think the benefit of wetlands is that they can retain water. So they're really good at like keeping that water in these areas because of the vegetation. So wetlands are always a benefit to have because they'll catch all the water that's in the area if it's there. Now, as for the drying out, I'm not a plant expert, so I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I can say that the plants and the animals are used to things drying out and the wetland moving or shifting. So, yeah.
Maybe we'll take one more question, and
Okay.
we're at 8 o'clock, so
this was really a beautiful presentation. Thank you. If we want to see the whole movie, how do we do it?
Yeah, if you want to see the whole films, they'll be posted on our website. So you can go to plattbasintimelapse.com, and we can send some of the hyperlinks to Teresa, who could maybe get them out to everyone who's here. So that will be at the end of October, so in November. Yeah.
Well, let's give Brooke a round of applause.
Thank you again. Thanks.
And don't forget, Saturday the 22nd, we do have the last seed collection out at Deacon Prairie. And if you want to order seed yet tonight or an Audubon calendar, we've got the forms out there. And you've got till midnight online for the bird seed. We've got some coffee. It's half calf out there, so it's not decaffeinated, but it's half calf, so it'll only keep you up half the night. And so if you want to ask Brooke a few more questions, stick around. I'm sure she'll stick around and answer a few questions for you. But thanks again for joining us in person and online, everybody. And we'll see you next month.
Thank you.